So how does one begin the process of conducting data analytics? There is a data analytics life cycle, which a number of vendors, researchers, health systems, and others deploy to ensure data analytics are well planned and produce as accurate intelligence outcomes as possible. Each instantiation of data analytics will have a slight variation on how they perceive the data analytics life cycle. To best display the various nuances, I've combined some of the attributes in several models into one that I'm comfortable describes both what is generally happening today with what is feasible but not necessarily fully in place for healthcare today. This life cycle considers planning for conducting analytics, the potential data sources for such analytics processes, and generally the data products or results from the analytics. Let's look at each of these four components. With respect to planning for analytics, the systems development life cycle serves us well. Set out your objectives for what you want to accomplish with analytics. Describe the scope, not too large or too advanced, but forward-thinking enough to get you through at least one cycle of technology. And it is noted that the life cycle of most IT is 18 months, even though it has taken many providers many years to implement an EHR on a single platform. A good rule, I think, for value-based care may be 3 to 5 years, given that is about the time we have already spent to date preparing to make the transition and about the time experts are estimating the actual transition will take place. If successful, we should know a lot more about value-based care and how it impacts us directly, at which time we should be ready for a new wave of technology to support the next phase of analytics. Also describe the approach to analytics. That is, do you intend to do all in-house with an external provider or by an external service provider only? Even if you expect to only use an external service provider, however, going through the life cycle and understanding its components should help you select a vendor, use the vendor, and consider your own future needs for complementing the vendor's services. Whatever your approach, development, testing, training, and deployment will be needed to be performed. Only the scale being determined by your approach. If you use only a service provider, you must be prepared to collect the data and transfer it to the vendor in a manner that produces good quality data and in a format that the vendor can use. Likewise, you will want to plan how the results are delivered back to you and in what format you plan to parse or reuse the data in some way. Obviously, if you are building your own or a complementary analytics system, you will be developing, testing, training, and deploying the system just like you would any other IT system, such as the EHR, billing system, etc. Now, the final step in planning should be describing how you will evaluate and use the results. This is often a forgotten step, yet without a plan, evaluating the results may not get done. And if the results appear different than expected, you can have many unhappy people to deal with. Even if testing has gone smoothly, and even if the first report or set of results coming back look good, the future is always not so bright. So be sure to evaluate results and make sure you have a plan to do so. The planning phase is something of a life cycle of its own. However, once you have done your planning And if you are fully outsourcing the analytics, you have undertaken a vendor selection and contracting process with a vendor. Recognizing and deploying the data sources is the next step in the overarching life cycle of data analytics. We mentioned several times now that there are multiple potential sources. Some considerations include: will you supply only internally acquired data, that is from your own system, such as the laboratory information system, billing system, EHR, etc., or will you utilize external sources as well? For example, you very likely receive at least some, if not all, especially if you are a physician office or a health plan, lab results from commercial labs. If you offer your patients a personal health record that is interactive for them to supply you with health diary data, or you connect to your patients' health apps, will you incorporate any of this data into your analytics? An interesting statistic I found in doing literature review for this lecture identified that EHR data in an ophthalmology clinic matched patient-reported data with respect to eye health symptoms in just 23.5% of records, less than a quarter. And when patients reported having 3 or more such symptoms, the EHR data did not agree at all. Clearly, this was a clinic already using analytics, but still needing some help. Whether the data are structured or unstructured is also a very big issue in using analytics. More advanced analytics functionality is designed to do natural language processing, handwriting recognition, and other techniques that will actually support use of unstructured data. But at what cost and for what enhanced value? Study this closely by considering how well your EHR systems are used to collecting structured data, or not, because people still dictate and use comment fields too much, and the degree of accuracy yielded from the extra effort and cost. Similarly, consider whether sensor data will be incorporated from patient monitoring systems, both in-house and via telehealth, patients' mobile apps, and even directly from source systems such as laboratory instruments and radiology modalities. And though unusual in healthcare at this time, social media and web usage, such as at least your own intranet or library supported via your patient portal, should be considered, at least for the future. A good starting point may be social media that tracks patient satisfaction with your facility to compare with formal surveys your commercial plans, and/or CMS performs. The nature of your data will determine the types of analytical processes to be performed. We've talked in Unit 3 about data transformation, that is the extract, transform, and load, as you move data into a warehouse. This would be the minimum you would need to do in order to prepare your data for analytics, and of course some of this can be outsourced as well. If you already have warehousing being done, a consideration should be whether it can be used for more advanced analytics. Considering the nature of the analytics determines the type of analytics processes, which we will discuss in the next slide. Both the data transformation process and analytics process or processes also contribute to the extent of big data management you may need to perform. We've covered data and information governance, data provenance, patient matching, and security and data segmentation for privacy in Unit 5. We'll talk a bit more about these in this lecture, and also the relationship discovery in Unit 7. Finally, we'll introduce you to big data storage and processing, a few slides in this lecture, and also relationship discovery in Unit 7. Finally, we'll introduce you to big data storage and processing a few slides from now in this lecture, as again, we are most likely looking at analytics to be performed on bigger data, not the biggest of data.